Imagine waking up in an America where inflation has pushed a gallon of milk to $7, grocery prices skyrocket like rising rent, and your dream home loses $100,000 in value overnight as the housing market crashes. Families are buried under $1.1 trillion in credit card debt, while hospitals demand $10,000 before providing care. On top of that, tariffs drive up prices on everyday imports, making basic goods unaffordable. Foreign tourists, once a major boost to the U.S. economy, are staying away as trade wars damage America's global reputation. This isn't a prediction, it's happening right now. The American economy is collapsing in real time, and the dream of financial security is breaking apart into a nightmare of debt, inflation, and economic decline. Number 1. America's growing debt crisis. Debt has become the invisible chain dragging millions of Americans into financial collapse, and it's tightening by the day. Credit card balances have surged past $1.1 trillion, the highest level in U.S. history. Families are swiping plastic just to cover groceries, gas, rent, and medical bills, while average credit card interest rates are now 22% to 25%. That means a $500 emergency grocery bill can balloon into $650 or more in just a few months. More than 50% of households now carry month-to-month credit card debt, and delinquencies are spiking at levels not seen since the 2008 crash. Auto loans are another trap. The average new car payment now tops $750 a month, while used cars still average over $500. Loan defaults are climbing, with repossessions rising 20% year over year. Student loan repayments, recently restarted, are draining another $300 to $600 monthly from millions of borrowers who were already stretched thin. Add mortgages to the mix, and you have households suffocating under $150,000 to $250,000 in combined obligations. Medical debt, the cruelest of all, is crushing families. An ER visit for something as simple as a broken arm can cost $5,000 to $7,000 without insurance. Even insured families face deductibles of $5,000 before coverage kicks in. Nearly 100 million Americans carry some form of healthcare debt, and medical bills are still the leading cause of personal bankruptcy. The impact on everyday life is devastating. Families skip vacations, delay retirement, and even ration food or medication to make debt payments. Small businesses collapse when owners can't juggle personal and professional loans. Entire communities feel the pinch as consumer spending dries up. Debt isn't just numbers, it's stress, broken marriages, and lost futures. It's a system where working Americans pay double or triple for the same goods once credit interest is added. The crisis isn't looming, it's already here. Everyday life collapses when debt becomes a permanent state of existence, and America has crossed that threshold. Number 2. America's broken and fragile economy. America's economy, once celebrated as the most resilient in the world, now feels like a fragile glass structure, shiny on the outside, but ready to shatter under the slightest pressure. The cracks are everywhere. National debt has exploded past $34 trillion, growing by over $1 trillion every 100 days, a pace that is mathematically unsustainable. Annual interest payments are set to surpass $1 trillion, meaning the U.S. will spend more just servicing debt than on defense or education combined. This is the definition of a system living on borrowed time. Meanwhile, inflation hasn't vanished. It's metastasized. Grocery costs are still up nearly 30% compared to pre-pandemic levels. Rents are crushing families at historic highs, and mortgage rates near 7% have locked millions out of home ownership. The average family of 4 now spends $1,200 more per month on essentials than they did just 3 years ago, a financial squeeze that savings accounts cannot absorb. Wages, while nominally higher, haven't kept pace. A worker earning $55,000 today has the purchasing power of someone making just $45,000 a few years ago. In practical terms, America has quietly slipped into a standard of living recession. Small businesses, the backbone of communities, are failing at alarming rates. Rising loan costs, tariffs, and sluggish consumer demand have pushed closures up by 25% year over year. Major corporations aren't safe either. Mass layoffs in tech, retail, and logistics reveal an economy built on shaky foundations. Add to that the collapse of once reliable sectors like tourism, retail, and real estate, and you see a domino effect. When one industry falls, the others stumble with it, dragging communities into poverty and local governments into bankruptcy. Everyday Americans feel the fragility most. Credit card debt above $1.1 trillion, skyrocketing auto loan defaults, and declining savings rates show that families are surviving on borrowed money while holding their breath for the next financial shock. This isn't stability, it's a house of cards. The broken economy isn't just about Wall Street charts. It's about parents deciding which bills to skip, towns struggling to keep lights on, and a nation teetering on the edge of financial freefall. Number 3. Job market instability. The so-called booming job market is largely a myth once you look past the headlines. Beneath the surface, millions of Americans are stuck in unstable, low-paying jobs that barely cover living expenses. Traditional middle-class careers, manufacturing, retail, office jobs, and even healthcare administration are disappearing at an alarming rate. They're being replaced by gig work and contract labor with no benefits, no job security, and no path to retirement. Uber drivers, food delivery workers, and warehouse temps may technically count as employed, but their paychecks tell a darker story. A gig driver making $15 an hour before expenses often takes home less than $9 once gas, insurance, and maintenance are factored in. Mass layoffs in tech and retail have only deepened the instability. Thousands of jobs have vanished in waves. Big tech firms cutting 10,000 workers here, retailers shutting hundreds of stores there. In just 1 year, retail closures alone erased over 150,000 jobs. Meanwhile, smaller companies, squeezed by inflation and supply chain chaos, are freezing hiring or slashing staff. A once stable career in industries like journalism, healthcare administration, or logistics now feels like a gamble. Even white-collar professionals are facing contract jobs instead of secure full-time roles, with benefits stripped away. The instability ripples outward. When workers can't count on steady income, they stop spending, which further erodes local businesses. Families delay buying homes, cars, or even appliances, crushing demand across multiple industries. Communities dependent on a single employer, factories, call centers, or corporate offices, are devastated when those jobs vanish overnight. And let's not forget the psychological toll. Job insecurity fuels stress, depression, and substance abuse, tearing at the social fabric. This isn't a healthy job market, it's a precarious one built on smoke and mirrors. Official unemployment rates may hover near 4%, but underemployment, job churn, and wage stagnation paint a very different picture. Everyday life collapses when paychecks no longer provide stability, and right now, millions are working harder than ever for less security than their parents had a generation ago. Number 4. Infrastructure breakdown. America's aging infrastructure is quietly collapsing, and it's impacting millions of people every single day. Roads, bridges, water systems, and power grids built decades ago are now failing faster than they can be repaired. Over 45,000 bridges in the U.S. are rated as structurally deficient, according to the Federal Highway Administration. Water main breaks happen every 2 minutes, wasting billions of gallons of treated water annually. The electric grid is increasingly unstable, with blackouts affecting millions during extreme heat waves and winter storms. The consequences are massive. Businesses face costly delays when highways or rail lines shut down. Families deal with unsafe drinking water, like the ongoing crises in Flint, Jackson, and other cities. Extreme weather events turn deadly when outdated grids can't handle demand, leaving entire regions without power for days. This isn't just inconvenient. It's a direct threat to safety, productivity, and economic growth. When infrastructure fails, it raises costs for everyone, drives businesses out of vulnerable regions, and accelerates the decline of struggling communities. Number 5. Tourism collapse. Tourism, once the crown jewel of the American economy, is collapsing under the combined weight of global turmoil, rising prices, and punishing tariffs. The ripple effects of trade wars aren't just felt in factories or on store shelves. They're choking off the flow of visitors who once filled America's airports, beaches, and landmarks. International tourism, worth nearly $250 billion annually, has fallen sharply as tariffs fuel retaliatory measures from Europe, China, and Latin America. Countries targeted by U.S. trade policies have responded with their own barriers: visa restrictions, travel warnings, and even campaigns urging citizens to boycott America. The fallout is devastating. A family of 4 from Mexico or China who once budgeted $6,000 for a trip to Orlando or Las Vegas is now looking at costs closer to $9,000 because tariffs have made flights, hotel supplies, and even dining more expensive. Hotels in New York City report vacancy rates climbing above 30%, while tourist hotspots like Miami Beach or San Francisco are seeing revenues fall by billions. Local economies that depended on steady tourist traffic, restaurants, shops, museums, are shuttering at alarming rates. A single drop of 10 million international visitors translates to $50 billion in lost revenue and nearly 500,000 jobs gone. The trade war adds another twist. American airlines, cruise companies, and theme parks face skyrocketing supply costs due to tariffs on imported fuel additives, aircraft parts, and construction materials. Disneyland ticket prices, already pushing $150 per person, creep toward $200, pricing out middle-class families while international travelers stay away. Cruise ships, hit by fuel costs and retaliatory bans at foreign ports, are slashing routes and laying off workers. The images are surreal: empty Broadway theaters, shuttered souvenir shops in Times Square, and Vegas casinos offering desperate discounts to lure customers. Tourism collapse isn't just about vacations. It's about the evaporation of a trillion-dollar ecosystem that once fueled jobs, taxes, and cultural vitality. Number 6. The retail apocalypse. The retail apocalypse is no longer just a headline. It's a full-blown economic crisis reshaping America's daily life. Across the country, stores are closing at a historic pace, turning once busy malls into empty shells. Places that used to buzz with shoppers and families now echo with silence, boarded-up windows, and everything-must-go signs. But this isn't just bad luck. It's the result of inflation, shrinking wages, and now, brutal economic policy. Trump's renewed tariffs, slapping 20% to 60% taxes on imported goods from China, Mexico, and even Europe, have sent shockwaves through retail shelves. Overnight, the price of basic items, clothes, electronics, even canned food, jumped by double digits. A $700 iPhone suddenly costs $950. Sneakers that were $100 now flirt with $140, and a family's grocery bill swells by $75 a week. Consumers already drowning in debt are simply walking away from checkout counters. Retailers can't absorb those costs either. Chains like Bed Bath & Beyond collapsed under billions in debt, while Walmart, Target, and Walgreens are pulling stores out of entire regions. Theft and operating costs are part of the story, but tariffs are pouring gasoline on the fire, making margins disappear. Every closure isn't just an inconvenience, it's an economic bomb. A single Walmart shuttering means 300 lost jobs and millions in evaporated tax revenue. That loss forces towns to cut school budgets, raise property taxes, or slash police funding. It's a chain reaction that destabilizes entire communities. The effect on housing is brutal too. A neighborhood that once boasted a thriving retail hub sees property values collapse. A $250,000 home can slide to $180,000 when the nearby shopping center becomes a ghost town. Empty parking lots quickly morph into havens for vandalism and homeless encampments, leaving locals feeling abandoned. Everyday life, grabbing groceries, picking up school supplies, eating out, now feels like a financial risk. This is how collapse looks. Not a single explosion, but a slow bleed of opportunity and convenience. The American shopping dream, once the envy of the world, has been gutted by tariffs, debt, and disappearing stores, leaving behind hollow shells of neon lights and abandoned carts. Number 7. Crime and social breakdown. When economies weaken and communities crumble, crime rushes in to fill the vacuum. And right now, America is living through that collapse in real time. In major cities and struggling small towns, crime is no longer just a statistic. It's part of daily life. Carjackings in cities like Philadelphia and Chicago have doubled in the past 5 years, with some neighborhoods reporting odds of being victimized at 1 in 20 per year. Shoplifting has escalated into organized theft rings, costing retailers billions and forcing major chains to abandon entire regions. Violent crime has surged, with homicides up 30% compared to pre-pandemic levels in certain metro areas, with homicides climbing by 30% compared to pre-pandemic levels in some cities. Police departments facing budget cuts and staffing shortages are stretched so thin that response times for 911 calls can take hours. In smaller towns, entire overnight shifts are sometimes covered by a single officer, leaving residents effectively on their own. The rise in homelessness only compounds tensions, as encampments spread into public parks, sidewalks, and even residential neighborhoods. The social unraveling is visible. Boarded-up shops, streets filled with graffiti, and communities where residents no longer feel safe walking at night. Schools are not immune. Some report an uptick in violence and drug use as economic stress trickles down to children. Even suburban areas, once seen as safe havens, are grappling with burglaries, rising fentanyl overdoses, and a sense that safety nets are gone. The collapse of law and order isn't just about numbers, it's about trust. When people no longer believe the system can protect them, they retreat, locking doors, avoiding public spaces, and living in fear. Everyday life becomes survival mode. This erosion of security feeds a vicious cycle. Businesses close, residents flee, tax bases shrink, and crime rises further. The collapse of social stability is not theoretical. It's unfolding right outside America's front doors. Number 8. The housing market crash. The U.S. housing market, once the cornerstone of the American middle-class dream, is now in full-blown crisis. Home prices are collapsing, inventory is piling up, and homeowners are watching their hard-earned equity evaporate faster than they can keep up with rising mortgage payments. Across countless suburbs, the for sale signs are multiplying like weeds, with homes sitting unsold for months. In 2021, the typical U.S. home sold in just 17 days. Now, many sit for 120 days or more. Buyers aren't biting because affordability has hit a wall. With 30-year mortgage rates stuck around 7%, a modest $350,000 home now demands a $2,700 monthly mortgage before adding taxes, insurance, or HOA fees. For many families, that's more than half their income gone on housing alone. The pressure is showing in the numbers. National home prices, which soared during the pandemic frenzy, are now falling double digits in key markets. In cities like Phoenix and Austin, values have plunged by $70,000 to $120,000 in less than 2 years. Sellers are slashing asking prices by 10% to 30% just to attract offers, while nearly 40% of listings nationwide report price cuts. This isn't just a cooling market, it's a crash hiding in plain sight. Investors who bought at the peak are now offloading properties at massive losses, flooding the market with distressed sales. Meanwhile, homeowners who locked in at ultra-low interest rates feel trapped, unable to move without doubling their mortgage payments. Renters aren't safe either. With landlords passing down higher costs, rents in many metro areas are eating up 40% of household incomes. A generation that already struggled to buy homes is giving up entirely, fueling disillusionment and despair. Neighborhoods once booming with new construction are now filled with half-finished projects, weeds overtaking lots, and contractors walking away mid-build. The housing market was supposed to be the bedrock of stability. Instead, it's becoming the epicenter of collapse, erasing savings, straining families, and turning the dream of homeownership into a nightmare of foreclosure, debt, and financial ruin. Number 9. Collapse of healthcare. Affordability. Healthcare in America has gone from expensive to completely unaffordable, and it's tearing apart the foundation of everyday life. The numbers are staggering. The average annual premium for a family health insurance plan now exceeds $24,000, with deductibles of $5,000 to $8,000 before coverage even begins. That means a middle-class family could spend over $30,000 a year just to access basic medical care. And that's if nothing catastrophic happens. A single ambulance ride can cost $2,000 to $3,000 out of pocket, and a hospital stay for a heart attack or surgery often runs $50,000 to $100,000. Even with insurance, co-pays, out-of-network bills, and surprise charges can drive families into medical debt overnight. The consequences are everywhere. Nearly 100 million Americans carry some form of medical debt, and medical bills remain the #1 cause of personal bankruptcy in the country. Families are making impossible choices, paying rent or filling prescriptions, buying groceries or scheduling a doctor's visit. Rural hospitals are closing at alarming rates, more than 130 shut down in the last decade, leaving vast stretches of America without even basic emergency care. Patients in some towns must drive over an hour just to see a doctor, and many simply skip appointments altogether. Meanwhile, pharmaceutical prices continue to skyrocket. A vial of insulin, which costs about $10 to make, can run patients $300 to $400 without insurance. Life-saving cancer drugs often exceed $100,000 per year, putting survival itself behind a paywall. Seniors, once relying on Medicare as a lifeline, now face gaps in coverage that force them to ration medication. Younger families often gamble with no coverage at all, hoping they can avoid medical disaster. The collapse of healthcare affordability isn't just a financial issue, it's a moral one. It erodes trust, weakens communities, and ensures that being sick in America isn't just dangerous, it's financially ruinous. A society where people avoid hospitals to dodge bankruptcy is one where everyday life has already collapsed. Number 10. The skyrocketing cost of living. The collapse of everyday life in America is most obvious at the checkout counter. Families are being crushed under record-breaking prices, turning basic survival into a luxury. Groceries that once cost $100 now ring up at $160 or more. A gallon of milk is nearing $7 in many states, while eggs that were $2 during calmer times now push $6 per carton. A single bag of groceries can easily top $75. And it's not just food. Utilities are exploding in cost. The average monthly electric bill hovers near $250, with heating and cooling costs adding another $200 during peak seasons. Insurance premiums are another silent killer. In states like Florida and California, homeowners are staring at annual property insurance bills of $7,000 to $10,000, with some carriers outright leaving the market. The squeeze isn't just on homeowners. Renters face hikes so steep they're pushing people into homelessness. Nationally, average rents are up 30% compared to pre-pandemic levels, with metro areas like Miami seeing median rents at $2,700 a month. Gasoline, once a predictable expense, now swings wildly. Filling up a mid-sized car can easily drain $80, while commuters in rural America burn through hundreds of dollars a week just to get to work. Eating out, once an affordable treat, now feels like robbery. A fast food meal for a family of 4 can easily cost $45 to $50, while a sit-down restaurant averages $100 before tip. Even healthcare, an essential cost, feels out of reach. The average family health insurance premium now exceeds $24,000 a year, split between employer and employee, with deductibles that can wipe out savings in a single hospital visit. This relentless financial pressure leaves families juggling bills, skipping meals, and relying on credit cards to bridge the gap. Skyrocketing living costs don't just strain wallets, they drain morale, eroding the sense of stability that everyday life once promised. For millions, survival now feels like a high-wire act with no safety net.